Hey y'all, Matt Wetmore here with Roots Nursery, and I want to talk about what you do with your tropical plants in the winter. As you can see behind me, we grow a lot of stuff in the house through the year. However, during the active growing season, the majority of what we grow from spring to fall is outside. Our houseplants stay in part shade and dappled light. Plenty of full sun plants like cactus and succulents that like to get a little bit more direct light during the day. In the afternoon sun, we try to use some shade cloth on most of our plants to ensure that they don't get scorched. We make mistakes, but the topic for today is what do you do with your plants before you bring them inside? What is the best way to have them thrive through your winter season? Behind me here, you'll see a ton of our houseplants. Now, a few examples of what we're growing in here are rubber trees. I have a big Australian tree fern that we just brought in for the winter, in addition to several philodendrons, spider plants, snake plants, and so much more, rare tropicals. And I also have a section over here dedicated to water cuttings. Now, there's many things that are important for bringing your plants in for the winter. And the first and most important thing is to clean out debris, pine cones, pine needles, sticks, rocks. Look and visually inspect your plants. This is going to be your number one defense before you bring your plants inside to help prevent bringing any pests along with them. After you clean the pot and the containers that you're planning to bring inside, what do you do next? Well, what I recommend is if you're planning to grow these plants under lights in relatively warm conditions compared to your outdoor winter temperatures, I recommend a light fertilizer, something houseplant, something 555, 222, general all-purpose. You could also do a Jack's all-purpose 20-20-20, but I would avoid using potent synthetic fertilizers like Osmocote over the winter season. You can, and a lot of people do it year round. However, most plants' growth slows down. So a light all-purpose fertilizer can be a better alternative to just maintain the current growth you have. You're not looking to get a lot of robust growth through the winter months unless you have perfect lights and perfect growing conditions. A lot of what you're doing over winter is just keeping your collection alive until you can manage them, properly fertilize, and get things put back outside in the spring. Now, we'll get to the most important thing to avoid any unnecessary death in the winter. My top tip for growing plants inside in the wintertime is pest treatment. We use a number of different things for a number of different pests. My number one organic gardening tip for growing plants and treating for insects is a basic soap, either Dr. Bronner's Castile soap or just a basic Dawn, and you mix that with some water in a bottle, just a couple drops of Dawn, and same with the Castile soap. Shake it up and then use that on all of the foliage of your plants, preferably in the morning or evening hours where there's no direct sun. If you can do it on a cloudy day, sort of like it is today, on a gray day, great. If not, totally okay. What you'll find is this is a great preventative for pests. It won't necessarily kill them. It will eradicate certain pests, but some will linger and some will hide in cracks and crevices of leaves. So this is a good preventative to do throughout the growing season to prevent the accumulation of unwanted pests. Now, aside from using an all organic method, we do one thing for our ornamental plants, and that is Captain Jack's Dead Bug. This is something we've used for years now. This is our third year as a nursery. We run everything out of our backyard, and everything I grow where I see potential for it to come inside during the winter, even in the garage, I won't worry about those plants nearly as much. But the ones coming in the house with my current collection of plants, these are the ones I'm most concerned about. So I will fill and dilute a solution of Captain Jack's Dead Bug, and this will be applied to the undersides of the leaves, the top of the leaves, in all the cracks and crevices of the stems. And this is so important because the last thing you want is to come midwinter where you can no longer put your plants outside. It's too cold. When you're in the 20s, 30s, low 40s, it's going to be a massive shock when you're bringing your plants outside on a relatively nice day, or if you see an outbreak of mealybugs or scale or thrips. These things can devastate a collection and devastate a nursery basically overnight, especially in the winter where you might not be giving your plants as much attention as you do during the active growing season. So what I find is a proper Captain Jack Dead Bug application before you bring them inside, and I do a thorough watering beforehand as well. This helps ensure that that plant, as it comes inside, has time to dry on its own. You don't have to worry about watering before you bring it inside, so then it's going to be watered in for the duration, whether it's a week or two, maybe just a few days for some plants. But the Captain Jack's Dead Bug will ensure that at the very least you are killing any present pests that you're unaware of, and that whatever might be lingering in your plant will not spread, or at least have the least likelihood of spreading during the winter months. When things are growing outside and they're exposed to wind and rain and natural conditions, pests are far less likely because predator pests like ladybugs and praying mantis and other good bugs, these exist in nature and they thrive in the garden and they allow bad pests to have predators. So mealybugs and things like that don't thrive nearly as much outside as they do inside. And same with spider mites. If you've ever tried to overwinter alocasias in your house, you have dealt with spider mites. They suck. Through the years, we have grown to learn that healthy plants, healthy soil, and healthy tissues of those plants are far more likely to not contract pests. That means properly fertilized plants, not anything halfway out the door. If you're bringing in plants for the winter that are on their death's door, as much as it's against a lot of growers' advice, it might be time to repot, prune, and hard prune that plant so that it encourages some new growth over the winter. Those situations can be taken on an individual basis, such as like how much watering to give and when to water, when not to, what kind of medium to pot in. Those are questions for another video. However, this one today is focused on what to do before you bring them inside for the winter. And I would treat any root rot, any problem plants, and I would do my best to mitigate struggling plants thriving inside. It's very difficult for you to overwinter a struggling plant inside where conditions are dry and it's not ideal. So if you have something that has some disease or has some fungus, you can apply things like copper fungicide, which is something we're dealing with a lot of our monsteras due to the irrigation water we have. That water tends to have something in it that's causing some fungal growth on our monsteras and some rust, much like you've seen on fig trees where the back of the leaves have some brown spots. We're having to deal with that this winter, and it's been a pain in the butt, but we're dealing with it and we're working through it. So that's another thing you can do before you bring them inside. Really take some time and visually inspect your plants, and you will find and learn through that what you're dealing with for pests and how to prevent them. Learning is key, so I hope this video helps you learn a little bit more about what pests are out there, how we bring our plants inside, and what we do in the winter to best prepare for the colder months. A lot of tropical plants will just merely slow down their growth. We don't water nearly as much inside until that heater gets put on. Once the heater's cut on, it tends to dry things out very quickly. So be cautious to evaluate your plants through the winter months. Some plants like philodendron don't need as much watering, but others, and snake plants, succulents, things like that, but other plants like spider plants and things that tend to get root bound really quickly need a lot more water. and your alocasias. They'll tell you when they're needing a drink. They'll get very dry, they'll start to droop, the leaves will start to close, and you all know some of the trouble with calathea and stromanthe and other types of prayer plants. They like humidity. So another big tip for bringing your houseplants inside for the last tip of this video, humidity. Add a humidifier to your plant room, to the space where you plan to have plants. And if you have just a couple and they're kind of going throughout your house, it's no big deal. But if you're anything like us with an entire plant room, use a humidifier. It will help to improve the humidity from, 40s, 50% to 60s, 70% maybe. And this is going to help the plants thrive and feel a lot more in their natural environment, which we're talking about tropical foliage plants. A lot of these things need humidity. And if watering is less, the heat is on, the dryness is much higher in the wintertime, it's so important. So I hope you guys learned something. Again, thanks for watching. This is our first venture into YouTube, so we appreciate it. Any and all feedback is encouraged, and I hope you guys have a great day. Good luck getting your plants in this winter, and leave us a comment or a message with any questions or concerns you have. Have a good day. Thanks, y'all.